Hey guys, wanted to do a quick video of my onboard air that I installed in my Jeep JL, and also my 4-tire inflator, deflator, and how I installed HornBlasters Shocker XL horns on my Wrangler here. So this was just a cheap kit on Amazon where I got the tank. It came with a different pump. It's kind of like the Smitty built. But I didn't really like that pump, so I upgraded to the Vi-Air. This one is a kind of a bigger Vi-Air. It's the 485C 2nd gen. This one will go up to 200 psi, and it'll run 100% duty cycle at 100 psi. I believe those are the numbers, but this thing should be able to pump up my 37-inch tires with no issues. The wiring, so I just have I think this is 8-gauge amp wiring that runs from the battery, and then I have another connector here that's wired into a switch where I can turn the compressor on or off. It does have a pressure switch here that cuts it off at 150 psi and then turns it on if it's below 120. These two air lines run down to the train horn. They do provide a 1/2-inch tube. These are 1/4 inch, but the 1/2-inch tube doesn't really bend real well, so it's hard to route it easily. And when you look at the HornBlasters kit, they have a 1/2-inch to it's like a 4-way to 3/8. But when you look inside of it, the hole that goes to the splitter is about 1/4 inch. So these two hoses do provide enough feed to it, and I'll show you that here in a second. It's got a quick disconnect. This is how I can hook up my air line to it for my tire deflator, right? So if I want to inflate the tires, I just hook this up and plug this into the tank here. The 4-tire, this is like a Moreflex, I think. They sell them, and to be honest, it's probably cheaper to just go buy one instead of trying to make it yourself. But I bought this off of the parts off of Amazon and then fabbed it up. I have a tool that can make the air lines. But if you look, you can see it's got the nice connectors here, and one side will run these two tires, and then you hook up the other side, and you open it up, it'll let air out. If you plug it up, it'll pump them up. So for the wiring, I got a circuit breaker here instead of a fuse. That way I can reset it if it pops. And then made a connector here. This wire, you want to make sure that you size it right for whatever pump you're going to run. If not, it's definitely a fire hazard, so it's better to go with thicker cable than smaller cable. But this hose just runs up into here in this tray, this wiring tray, to get it across the engine bay. And then I guess where that manual clutch cable goes, there's a nice bracket to pass it through. So it just runs into here. And then it runs up through here. And then I just cut out a little piece and ran it in there. Now for my compressor, I have a switch mounted over here to turn it on and off. I have the aux package, so I tied it into key on only, and I bought some wiring that has 2 wires in a one piece. I don't know if I can show you that, but like this right here, you can see it's actually 2 wires in there, and that's how I have my switch wired to turn it on. The power for the horn button is a second wire where I mounted the horn button here. this actually has the same 2-strand wire. So all those run up through here, and right around here, this actually the horn button or horn wire goes down here, and then the other wire for the compressor comes up over here, which I got these quick connects from Amazon, so I can unhook this and unbolt the tank if I want to just take it out. These are quick fittings as well, so you can just push it in and pop these hoses out. Now what I did is I drilled a hole right here for my air line and for the horn wiring, which drops it under the Jeep. Which you should be able to see up here. That's where it comes out. And I bought this heat shielding off of Amazon as well, but it runs over the 2 air lines. They feed into the solenoid here, and then the connector is right here. It's another quick connect, so I could unhook this and pop off the air lines if I'm going on an extreme trip. They don't hang super low, but you can see they definitely could drag on a rock or something, depending on what kind of off-roading you're doing. Yeah, so they're definitely not optimal for off-roading because they can grab stuff. So what I did is I got some flat stock from a metal supply shop, much cheaper. Don't buy it from Home Depot. You'll spend $100 and a couple pieces of metal from them. This was 10 feet, and I think it was like $8 or something. But I just bent this in my vise with a hammer, big sledgehammer, bent it out. These holes were in my Jeep from the factory. They just didn't have any screws in them. I'm not sure what they bolt them onto, or what bolts to it. But I just reused them. It's kind of hard to find the bolts for these. These are like M12 by 1.5. But I bought some bolts, and but I went to, it's like American Bolts or something, and got these bolts. You can get them on Amazon as well. So I just made some brackets. I have a welder. I'm not a good welder by any means, but I just fabbed up kind of a front mount here and then this back mount, and they fit pretty good. They're not touching anything, and they're tucked in pretty tall, or pretty tight. These are the longer horns in the back. I put the shorter ones up front here. Same thing with a bracket. You could see this bracket actually runs in the front. There was 2 bolts here. These are smaller bolts, and I think I had these bolts from my bumper install or something. So I just reused those. I didn't have to buy any. But that's it. That's a pretty simple bracket. They're in there nice and snug. They're above the skid plate, but if you're hitting some real rocks, you know, you could catch one. But I worry more about going underwater in like a river crossing or something like that. Or if I don't mud because I don't like to clean it, but if you went mudding, definitely not the best place for them. The solenoid, I just took just a piece of flat stock here, bent it up, and drilled the holes and attached it here. So that's in there pretty good. I did originally have these cheap Amazon horns, which these things actually are pretty loud. But I had it, you could see here, I had 2 screws here. The little plate that comes with it was mounted here, and I unscrewed these. Unscrew real easy. I put the long ones on top and then the short ones on the bottom, and the short ones come to about right here, which it's fine if you're going off-roading. I went to Moab with them and didn't have any issues with them hitting anything. But if you do get these cheap horns, I would buy the HornBlaster air solenoid. I found that these ones leak, so you come out in the morning, your compressor's empty, and you have to run the compressor to fill it up, which is loud and annoying. So if you do use the cheap horns, buy the HornBlaster air solenoid. It's just a 1/4 inch NTP. The biggest pain with this install is definitely these damn air lines. They leak like crazy. You put a ton of Teflon on there and stuff, and it's just a pain. So what I do is I have this sealant for like gas lines, natural gas lines. I put that on after I wrap it a few times with Teflon tape. Now I think I got all my leaks sealed up. So that's definitely a pain, but you can get to the full Shocker XL kit into the Jeep, but it's a challenge. Now for the fun part. A couple other things that I would add. These are the higher end fittings. They sell some cheaper ones if you go to make it yourself. These work, but you have to be real careful. You got to make sure you really push them on if you're inflating or deflating. I've found that I'll miss one, it's not pushed in all the way, and it won't deflate the tire or inflate it, and I have to go push it in and clamp it on again. Another problem too is you can kind of see it, there's dirt and stuff gets in here, so you have to be fairly careful or clean them off with something. So this is kind of a pain. I'm not really sold on this four tire inflator deflator. It works, but it's not as great as you would think. So just keep that in mind. Another thing too is these tanks, you can mount the tank anywhere. You can mount the pump anywhere as well. This pump is waterproof or water resistant. It's like IP67 or something. There's companies that sell kits where you can actually install a tank and the pump under the body here in the same location where I had installed 2 of the horns. But those kits, they only come with 2 horns instead of 4, so just keep that in mind. Most of the stuff you get all buy on Amazon, the automotive, you know, cloth type electrical tape, etc. I did solder up my connections. I have a solder gun, and then I also had a crimping tool to make these crimps and stuff nice and pretty. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video.